So today's class is going to be focusing on Amazon relational databases, and as we are aware already, RDS supports multiple database engines like MariaDB, MySQL, Aurora, which is a customized version of MySQL. Amazon has increased limits and performance in Aurora DB, and there are also other database services available like DynamoDB. So today's class we will be focusing wholly on RDS, and if time permits we will look at DynamoDB. So going to the first step, we are going to look at creating the subnet groups. That is, you see here, that's a subnet group. Just go ahead and click on that. And I have already set up a VPC so that I am going to use the subnets from my VPC. So create a DB subnet group. I'm going to say RDS demo subnet group. Same description. I'm going to choose my demo VPC. If you remember, I have been using the same thing for most of my demos, so I'm going to go ahead and choose that. And it is asking me whether I want to add all the subnets or particular ones. So if you want to add all of them, go ahead and click on that, but that would not be necessary. So we are going to choose only ones which we needed. So in Asia Pacific 1A, I'm going to choose, if you remember the odd series, that is one series, I use it for public facing instances, and for the even series, that is 2 dot series, I use it for private instances. So in 1A, I'm using 2.0, and if I go to availability zone 1B, I'll be using the 4 series. So if you just come down here, I have both the subnets added, that is 10.81.2.0 and 10.81.4.0. So my database or private instances will be in the even series. So we'll go ahead and create it. This is just an architectural structure. There is no necessity of having even an odd number. Here you can have it any way you want. You can have any number of IP groups or anything. I just make it easier so that I don't have to remember the subnet numbers, the alphanumeric numbers here. So go ahead and choose private and public as you are convenient and familiar with. I clicked on create, it is already created. Let us go ahead and refresh the page. Okay, as you can see, here is my RDS subnet and it is created in this VPC. If you want to see more details, you have to click on this option here. It will show you all the details. So if you want to remove or add, that is how you do it here. And as usual, you can have tags as well. So we have done with the first step, that is creating your RDS subnet. So next we are going to do is creating our parameter groups. Let's go ahead and do that. So for parameter groups, again the option is on the left hand side. Click on this one. What happens if you don't use a parameter group or customized parameter group is Amazon will use a default parameter group. Amazon is saying that all the parameters are already optimized and default values are allowed here. So it allocates all these default parameters for your database. But if you want to customize something, then it is always ideal to create your own parameter group and create your database with that parameter group. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create our parameter group now. We don't have to change any setting, but just give the default ones as of now. Demo. Let us do this. RDS demo param group. Click on create. So that's it. You have created your parameter group. You don't have to change anything. We will look at changing something later. So that's it. You don't have to do anything else here. We look at the parameters one by one a little while after we start our database. So this step is also completed. Then what is left is going and creating our RDS instance itself now. For that, I just go here, instances. It's searching for my instance. As of now, I have nothing here. So I'm going to click on launch a DB instance. And it's giving me all the options that is available. Since this is going to be a demo, and I would also expect you to choose this option while you are experimenting. When you're in production, obviously you will not be worried about free tier and cost, but when you're experimenting, when you're learning, choose this option so you don't accidentally start any database that will charge you much more than your allocated free tier limit. So in our demo, we are going to use MariaDB. I'm going to choose MariaDB here, and it says free tier eligible, so go ahead and select it. And default values are already pre-populated for you. For example, db.t2 micro is the instance that is free tier eligible, so it is also chosen, and multi-AC is also disabled. That is because we have chosen a free tier. If I remove this option, I will have this all reset, and I can choose any of these options. If I want to have my database into multiple ACs, then this will be enabled. So I go here, something like that. So M4 large, and it is asking me if I want to deploy it in multiple ACs. For a demo, let us stick to db.t2 micro and leave this as also as default. SSD storage and 5 GB. We won't be needing even 5 GB, but that is the minimum, as you can see here. So let's go ahead and create an identifier. This is nothing but a tag that will be easy to identify your database instance. So I'm going to say RDS demo instance. So I don't think so it allows hyphens here, so let me just go ahead and remove that. I'm going to name it RDS demo instance 01, and then being an experimental server, I'm going to have a simple username and password, db user, and password is also going to be db user pass. I'm going to click on next step. Here I'm going to choose my default demo VPC, and see automatically it picks up my RDS demo subnet group. If one is not already there, then you will automatically RDS will create a subnet group for you. And it also says that this instance is not publicly available. That means that there is no public IP address associated with this database, and you need another instance in front of it to connect to it. That is what is written here. So availability zone, I'm going to say let it be on A, so it will choose a particular subnet. And I also created a DB security group. We'll go to security group and see what are the rules that is configured here. I'm selecting the DB security group. I'm going to say the database name as RDS demo DB, and 3306 is the default port for MySQL, MariaDB, and Aurora. In production, you might want to change this to increase your security if your security officer requires it. So for demonstrations or technical help or learning, leave it as 3306 itself. And we don't want encryption. We'll just leave backup retention as 7 days and leave everything as default itself. You don't have to change anything here. Go ahead and click on launch an instance. This is going to take some time. At least I've seen it to take about 2 to 3 minutes. So let us go ahead and view your instance. This is how the console looks like. You can see the status as creating. It is going to be like this for some time now until it's finished creating the database instance. As you can see, there are 3 tabs here. The first one gives you the CPU memory, that is the monitoring statistics. The next one is configuration statistics, like what is the name of the DB that we gave, and what is the username we gave, what is the subnet, and all those details are given here. So I told you I'll take you to the security group and show you what are the rules configured. I'm going to go there, open that one. It should open in a minute. Meanwhile, we are doing with this step here, and it should get completed anytime now. So this is a security group that are automatically opened here. Let me go ahead and go and see the inbound rules. You can see I have allowed inbound rules only from this source security group. So let us go ahead and find out what is this security group is from. If you remember, I told you this is my private instances are going to be in the private subnet. This security group will apply to my public instances. In other words, I have a two-tier architecture, that is public and private, and I have put my RDS inside my private tier and created a security group for my private tier and also a security group for my public tier. So let me duplicate this one. I'm going to search for the other one now. Okay, did I make a mistake? Let me just, I need to search for this one. Okay, where is this one? Okay, here it is, 76531 FM. You can see for this one, the inbound traffic is only on HTTP and SSH. That is this. This is my public instances, and the public instances are open to my internet. So any EC2 instance or any app server or web server, web app server will be put in here, and the application which receives connection from HTTP will then connect to my RDS through this port. So to connect to my RDS, I can reach it only from this security group. That way my RDS instance is more secure. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to create an EC2 instance inside this security group 75653, that one. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to create an EC2 instance. Okay, it is on US East. Let me check where is my RDS instance. My RDS is in Mumbai. Let me go ahead and change it to Mumbai region. Okay, I'm going to click on launch an instance. As usual, I'm going to use Red Hat Linux here. Leave it as a default to free tier. And here, if you want to remember, I am using demo VPC and I'm going to use my public subnet. So if you remember, I have created as public and private subnet. So I'm going to use my public subnet 1A. So this is what I'm choosing, and I want it to be connected from my SSH also, so I can connect to the terminal and do some read write queries. So I'm enabling a public IP so I can connect to my EC2 instance. And if you remember, I also need an RDS client to connect to my database. So if you want to know the commands, go to the GitHub article that I showed you. So this is the command to install an RDS or MySQL client. So I'm going to copy this into my EC2 instance here. Bin bash. Okay, that's it. That should install my RDS client or database client. Add storage, leave it as it is. Tag. I'm going to say RDS client 01. Configure security group. Here is the interesting part. I'm going to choose the one which says 7653, this one, and inbound ports are only 80 and port 22. Launch. Everything is verified. Mumbai trainer key. I have this key, so click on launch instance. So while this is getting launched, let me go ahead and click on this one as well. Let us go and see whether our RDS instance is ready. Okay, you see the interesting status here. Whenever Amazon sets up your database, after it has come up online, that is after you see your endpoint here, Amazon takes an initial backup. I'm sorry about that. Amazon takes a backup. That is what is happening now. So whenever a fresh database is created, it takes a backup and then it says that it is ready for usage. And you can see the values are started coming up here. That is that we have about 4.75% of CPU usage for the backup activity. Okay, I did something. Okay, this is what I wanted to show here. It is just checking and the percentage is dropping slowly. Okay, so now our database is ready and our EC2 instance is also getting baked. So once this is ready, we connect to it and start interacting with our database. This is our public name. Okay. I'm going to go to my terminal, edit session. I'm going to use this, and then I'm going to use my private key, which I'm not too sure where I kept it. Let me find out quickly. I downloaded it recently. It should be in downloads. Here it is. Okay, we are getting connected. Let me minimize this. Okay, sudo su hyphen. We are en route in our EC2 instance. Next step is connecting to our RDS. If you remember, if you don't know the command, you just go to the GitHub article, and here is the command of connecting to the RDS instance from EC2. So before that, we need to verify whether MySQL is installed. For that, I'm going to write MySQL -- version. If I remember correctly, this should be the command. Okay, as you can see, MySQL is installed, that is MariaDB client is installed, and it is having the latest version 5.5. So what we can do is, I'm going to open a notepad quickly, copy this. This is nothing but MySQL -h, that is which host name I need to connect and which port name, and -u is the username and -b is the password. So this is the demo or dummy instance ID. We need to change it to our RDS instance ID. So I'm going to change it using our notepad here. So go to your RDS instance, and this is the endpoint I've talked about to connect to our RDS. Your applications will use this, your third-party developers will use this. This is how you can connect to your RDS instance. Okay, so MySQL -h, our host name, and -p, our port is the same, -u, that is DB user is our user ID, and -p. If you remember, there is a difference. This is a capital P and this is a small p. If you mix it up, it will complain that it is not able to connect. So it is there. So see, I'm getting a password prompt. That means that my EC2 instance is able to connect to my RDS instance without any problems. And remember, both of them are different security groups. So the password is, as I told you, DB user pass. Voila, I'm connected now. So the next few commands is going to be literally from here only. So show databases, I'm going to use the same command. You can use this also. This is just to check whether you are connecting to the RDS or not. So you can see the number of connections. Control C and paste it here. I'm sorry. Where is paste? Yeah, paste. You can see this is the maximum connections your RDS DB is currently allowing. So you can query a lot of things. All I'm showing is how you can connect your instance and interact with your RDS instance. This command is what we are going to use next. Show databases. It will list you all the databases that is available in your RDS instance. So as of now, it says that it has only these default ones, that is RDS itself is created, and if you remember, this is the name that we gave while we are creating the RDS instance. So I'm going to say use this database for creating our tables. So the command for that is use RDS DynamoDB. If you want to be familiar, you can use the same thing here. Use say show databases and then use database name. That is what I have done. So I am using RDS DynamoDB right now. If any tables I create, it will get created here. Before that, let me go ahead and show tables. I think this is the command. As of now, it says that there are no tables here under this database. So let us go ahead and create a database table. So here I'm going to create a table with name students, and this table is going to have 3 columns, that is student ID, name and city. This is the syntax for that. that is student ID as integer, last name and first name as characters, and city also as characters. So if you are not familiar with the database, just blindly copy paste it for experimental purposes. Okay, that is pasted. So I'm going to enter it. So you can see the query is okay and it's got successfully entered. So let us go ahead and show tables now. It should show us one record. So you can see we have a students table created. So if you want to know how many records are there, then what we do is select star from students. You can see it is empty. Since we just now created our tables are empty. We need to add some records into our database table now. Again, I have created the commands for you. I'm just going to copy paste all these things. There are 5 records, commands for 5 records. I'm going to insert only 4 of them now. Just copy this. See, as it says that insert record, it should say insert records into say tables. I'm just going to copy and paste it here. Okay, I'm just going to clear my screen, and again I'm going to say select star from students. You can see you can see there are 4 records now. I have just created all these 4 records just now. That is, this is the first name, this is the second name, and these are the city names. So it is the same as what we saw here. As you can see, Anil and Reddy, Mr. Vale, all of those guys. I will insert this record later. So the commands are also here again. If you want to know, select star from students, and if you want to know how to query a particular data, let us say I'm going to select student ID where the last name is Reddy. I execute a command like this. So you can see I'm getting a student ID of students where the last name is Reddy. So we can see 2 people who are having last name as Reddy and their student ID is 2 and 3. That is what my record has picked up. And, this is all RDS does. So what we have done is we have demonstrated how to create an RDS subnet, how to create an RDS parameter group, creating an RDS instance, and inserting records, and also retrieving the records from an EC2 instance. That is all we have done so far. Do you have any questions on all these things? Quickly, yes, no. I'm waiting for your response, guys. Am I the only one talking? Anybody able to hear me? So the next step is creating RDS snapshots manually. As we saw, Amazon creates snapshot, automatic snapshot when you're creating an instance, and when you configure it to take snapshots frequently or particular intervals, it will do the same thing as well. Here I'm going to show you how to create a manual snapshot so that we can try to restore it at a later point of time. So let's go ahead, go to our RDS console. Here you can see snapshots. I'm going to click on that. And before going there, you can see current activity. It says one connection, that is me connecting to the database and performing some activities. So RDS gives you a quick snapshot of what is the activity going on in your database. You can see all those activities here quickly. And if you want to have more logs, you can go and click on these logs. It gives you some amount of troubleshooting information to see what is happening in your RDS instance. So you can see your error log, you can see all those things, download it and troubleshoot it in case if you want to do it. That is the maximum troubleshooting that you can do in your RDS. Fine tuning happens through parameter groups. But let us focus on snapshots. We'll come to parameters later. So you can see this snapshot is automatically created by our Amazon guys. So you can see the type, it says as automated. So what we are going to do is create a snapshot, and as of now I have only one instance, so by default it is in the drop down only one is showing. So I'm going to say RDS demo instance manual snapshot. That's a descriptive name I'm keeping, so it is better to have it as much descriptive as possible. So tomorrow you can easily identify what snapshot is taken by whom and by what activity. So you can see here it is getting created. So the previous one is available. I can do restoration with this one. I can do any type of modifications. If you remember, this was created while the database was initialized the first time. What that means is all the records that we inserted will not be available in this automated snapshot. The 4 records that we created will be available in this one. So let this one get created. Meanwhile, we'll go ahead and talk about parameter groups now. I'm going to go to my parameter groups. And if you remember, we are using this parameter group, RDS param group. I'm going to click on this one. And it is loading the default parameters. You can see there are a whole lot of parameters for fine-tuning your database. You will usually look at these parameters whenever you want to customize your database for performance or want to support some things that are not usually supported. For example, European names are having additional characters on top of it, especially Spanish names and Italian names have accents on top of it, especially Hebrew names. If you want to support those characters, if you want to allow users from those regions, then what you have to do is you can go ahead and customize them to allow all these things. And another common thing that quite often does is time zone. For example, if you want to set your database to a particular time zone, what you do is you can see that the default time zone is coming up. That's what I'm going to change now. Let us see, I can pick it up easily. Okay, I'm going to choose this parameter and edit this one, edit params. So the default time zone is by default is not given, so I'm going to set my time zone as India. So Asia Calcutta is what is default refers to Indian time zone. So I'm going to run my database in this time zone. As of now, it was running on a default time zone, that is UTC time zone. Now it will run on Asia Calcutta. So I'm going to click on Save Changes. That is how simple as customizing your DB parameter groups or changing some parameters for your database. There was another common item that I used to demonstrate. Let me see if I can find it. You can see by default the changed ones shows up here. Let us remove this filter. Okay. Okay, I'm sorry. Okay. There was another one that I used to, and let me quickly see if I can find it. This is the value, that is a connection timeout. You can set how many seconds that you want the connections to be active in your database, so that if you remember IRCTC, every 5 minutes or something like that, if a session is idle, you will be disconnected from the server. This is a setting that you use to typically disconnect your users after a certain amount of time, after checking their idle or active or those kind of things. So these are all the parameters, and this is another time zone parameter, default week format. Middle East countries use different weekends. For example, for them Friday and Saturday is the weekend, whereas in India we typically follow Saturday and Sunday. And there are certain countries where start of the week is on Monday. So you can customize those kind of things also in your parameter groups. Usually you will start doing this only when your database is not performing very well, or if your customer asks for a very specific set of parameters, just like example I gave you about italics or weekend parameters, those kind of things. Other than that, you will not have to change anything here. So that is about parameter groups for you. Meanwhile, let us go ahead and see whether our snapshot is completed. Okay, you can see this is my RDS manual snapshot. Let me shrink that. RDS manual snapshot, and it is available. So this snapshot has 4 records in it. So let me go ahead and insert one more record so that I can demonstrate that what happens when you take a snapshot and insert records. I'm going to copy this. So you can see here there are actually currently only 4 records. I'm going to insert the Oh, I'm sorry. I aborted. So let me clear my screen. Select star from students. Okay, did I not get connected? Okay, use databases. Use RDS DynamoDB. Okay, now select star from students. As you can see, what happened was I did not select which database students from coming from. I should have mentioned the database name also here, something like demodb.students. Otherwise, use this command rds demodb, that is use the database and then query for the tables. So 4 records are already there. Let us go ahead and insert the 5th one. If I query again, select star from students, I should be able to see 5. So we have a Martian record in our database table. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to restore our snapshot, which is having only 4 records, and see whether this 5th record is appearing or not. So the point I'm trying to demonstrate is snapshots are point-in-time records. So once you take a snapshot, no addition or deletion is possible unless you restore it to another instance. So for restoring, all you have to do is click on this one, that is our manual snapshot, and then click on snapshot actions and you say restore snapshot. You can share your snapshot with other accounts or third-party developers or anything. Quite often what happens is development teams will create a database and they want to distribute it to other teams for testing and those purposes. In those cases, what they can do is they can create a snapshot and share it with other teams. So as you can see, by default certain parameters are selected. Again, I'm going to say I don't want a multi-AC deployment, and I'm going to create an identifier. Again, this identifier is going to say DB RDS snapshot demo. If it is accepting hyphens, I will leave it as it is. I'm going to again say demo VPC, and subnet group is going to be this one, and publicly accessible is no. Preferences, I'm going to put it in B. The previous one is in A. I'm going to put this one in B now and leave all these things as default. I'm going to click on restore DB now. So I should see 2 databases now. You can see here the first one, RDS demo instance 01, RDS snapshot demo here. And it is going to take some time for getting created. Meanwhile, when you go to our to-do list and see what else is pending here. So we created a snapshot and then we inserted records into our snapshot, and we have started restoring our snapshot manually, and we will see how to modify a security group for a snapshot next. Go to our snapshot, go to our instance. If you select this one, instance actions will be there. Okay, let it get completed, then we will be able to modify it by using this option. If I select the previous one, modify option will be enabled. So let us wait for this one to get created to see, to confirm which security group it is taking and which parameter group it is taking. Meanwhile, I'll go to this one and see if the parameter groups have taken into effect. I want to demonstrate another activity for you guys, so you need to know that. So you see the default parameter group, it says in sync. There are certain parameters in parameter group. If you change them, that will require a reboot for your database. Then what happens is this value that it says in sync will say that waiting for next reboot. So in other words, parameter groups are not real-time changes. Certain parameters are real-time changes, certain parameters are not real-time changes. It will require a downtime. So if a customer or somebody comes to and says you that I want to change this parameter, then as an admin or a consultant, your responsibility is to go and tell them this is going to require a downtime. Are you sure you want to do that? Then after you get the downtime confirmation and everything, then you can go ahead and change the parameter and then go and do a reboot. The reboot is nothing but you just go here and choose this option and you will reboot your RDS instance. So as it requires a downtime, it is always advisable to inform them in advance, saying that there might be disruption to your services. Are you ready? And you want to go ahead and do that. And sometimes, especially the time relative changes, if a transaction is happening and you are changing your time zone parameter, those transactions can fail and your user experience will be impacted. Think of somebody trying to book a ticket, and they're trying to book a ticket today right now, and you're moving from American time zone to Indian time zone, which is ahead of it. So what happens is the ticketing tool will say that you cannot book a ticket in the past tense, that is for the previous time or in the future. So those kind of tricky situations will arise when you're trying to change the time zone parameter on the fly and trying to do it without a reboot. So be careful about those things when you're changing parameter groups. Let us go ahead and see whether it is getting created. Not yet. So far, are we good with everything? So as you can see, our snapshot instance has been created and backup process has been initiated. So we should have an endpoint to connect to our RDS instance already. So here's our endpoint. I'm going to copy that. I've just duplicated my terminal. I'm going to use the same EC2 instance to connect to it. So let us see if I can get connected. DB user. Okay, it is taking a while for accepting the password. So as you can see, the inbound permissions are not allowed and it is in the default security group 76563. That should not be the one. I am going to go back to my security group. See, my DB has to be in this security group. Then only it can accept 3306 connections. One moment. As of now, my database is on this security group. That is why it is not accepting any connections. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to modify the RDS instance. As I told you, I'm going to select this instance, go to instance details and go to modify. It is still finishing the backup, so let us wait for the backup to be completed so that we can go and change the security group for that one. So let's go ahead and modify this database and allow it to change the security group. So here you see all the parameters. I'm not going to change the DB password. I'm just going to go ahead and choose this one, DB security group. And I'm going to check what is the parameter group. Here it says the default one. I'm going to change it to my parameter group, RDS demo params group. So those are the two changes I'm going to make here, and go ahead and say choose apply immediately. So this is the important notification I told you. If any of the pending modifications require downtime, choosing this option can cause unexpected downtime. So when you're changing parameter groups, as I told you, if there is any parameters that requires a downtime, and if you choose this option, apply immediately, Amazon will reboot your instance and it will cause a downtime to your applications. Let us go ahead and click on continue. And it is asking for all the details that has been changed. So these are the two parameters that has been changed. Let us go ahead and say modify DB instance. And it is going to take a little bit time to get that applied. As you can see, it is adding this security group and removing this one. So it is completed already and the parameter group is getting applied. So you can see the applying status here. And once it is finished applying, you should be able to see the status as in sync. So since the security group is allowed, now let us go ahead and try to connect it from our console now. You can see that obviously there's an error message. Let us go ahead and try to connect again. Voila, there we go. Once we clear our parameter security groups, we are able to connect. Let us say select star from RDS demo db dot students. You can see there are only 4 records, although there are 5 records. I'm just going to the previous console. Here you can see there are 5 records in my database, the active database, but in the snapshot I took only up to this point, so my snapshot is showing only 4 records here. So whenever you take a snapshot, it is a point in time data, and any changes made after the snapshot will not reflect in your snapshot. So if somebody tells you to take a snapshot and say that their added changes are not visible, this is going to be the most probable cause. So tell them they want to use the latest snapshot or restore an old snapshot. It is just like backups and restoring from backups. That's all it is. So that is the thing that I want to demonstrate related to snapshots. We have taken it and we have restored it, and we have retrieved data also from snapshots. So the next thing is modifying security groups parameters. We have retrieved it. We are going to go ahead and see how to create a read replica. Again, I'm going to my database instance, and I'm going to create a read replica from my master database. Let us say this is my master. I'm going to go to instance, and going to click on create read replica. What it happens is all my read write operations will be happening here, but if I have to create a report or reduce the workload on my master instance for creating reports, then I will create an instance which is a replica of my active database, but only doing read operations on this one. Then I go ahead and create a read replica. Whenever somebody says read replica, it is 90% of the times to improve the performance of the existing database by creating another copy which is only for read-only access. You cannot modify or insert records through this instance. So RDS read replica demo instance. I'm going to put it in Asia Pacific region only. As you can see, read replicas can be in some other region also to improve your performance, or your report creation team or executives are sitting in some other region and you want to make it faster for them, you can put it in some other region also. For experimental purpose, stay with the same region, and publicly available no, and RDS parameter subnet group, leave it all at default unless you want to change it. So click on read replica, and it is going to take some time again. So what happens is the status is getting modified, and if I scroll down, your replication status changes to master here. So let us minimize this. How do I increase the space? Okay, you can see there are 3 instances available. That is my RDS demo instance, that is as tagged as master, and the replica is tagged is here for as a replica, and also my database snapshot instance is also available. So as you can see, this is getting modified. That means that data is getting copied from this database to this database now. I should be able to connect to this one as well and only perform select queries. I will not be able to do an insert query. We can also check that out once it is finished creating. So that is the next step. Once it is finished creating, we can go ahead and connect to it and retrieve records from that and do all sort of database querying activities there. So what we're doing now is connecting to our read replica, which is already set up, and we are trying to connect to it to see if we can retrieve records, and is it really possible to write records to that one. So port number is 3306 and user is db user and -p for password. Okay, we are connected to it. Let us to select star from RDS DynamoDB dot students. See, this is Read Replica is for the master database. So you can see there are 5 records to it. So that is why I'm able to retrieve all those 5 records. I can have any number of queries happening. Let's just go ahead and try to insert a record and see what happens now. I'm just going to copy and paste the last one again. You can see, oh, I'm sorry, use RDS DynamoDB. Okay, let me go ahead and try to insert it. And you can see there is a very friendly option, error message there that says the MariaDB server is running with a read-only option, so it cannot execute this statement. In other words, I can use Read Replica for running reports, querying records, those sort of things, but I cannot use it for modifying the database itself. So that is what you use a Read Replica for. Or another purpose is, for example, if your master database is, for instance, having some issues and you want to connect to you want to have your business constantly running, then what you can do is you can promote your replica as a master. That means the link between these two will be broken. That is, there is no longer replication. This replica will also become a master. So you remember this tag here, that is replica, that is master. So I'm going to promote this replica into a master now. So here I select the Read Replica instance and go to instance actions and then choose as promote Read Replica. And it is asking you what is my backup configurations, all those default things. You can leave all those things saying that I don't want automatic backups to be taken. Click on no and click on continue. And it just gives me an error message saying the replication will be broken and this will be a separate database of its own. There is no longer replication happening. Are you sure you want to promote this? I'm going to say click ahead and say promote Read Replica. And you can see it is getting modified and you can see the replication status is master and replica here, which might change anytime. Okay, that doesn't work here. So it will take some time, and after that the replication, after the modification is over, this will become a database of its own. In that case, we will be having 3 databases. One is the master that I created and the snapshot I created at point in time data, and also a read replica which is been promoted into a master of its own. So that is it for a Read Replica. In case a disaster strikes for this instance, or some reason some corruption has happened and that corruption has not been replicated here, then you can promote your Read Replica and have that as a master and try to recover your business from that point in time. It also takes a typical amount of time to break the replication promoting into a master. So one final time, as you can see, all 3 databases are their own masters and Read Replica has become available. You can connect to it and write to it as well. Let me try to connect to it. I'm not too sure if this connection is still working. Is the RDS Read Replica COSO? Let me just check the console. Yeah, it's the same one, it is working. So let us just say select star from students. 5 records are there. Let me go ahead and try to insert one more now. I'm going to insert a Martian again to see if we can insert it. Awesome. So let us see. You can see there are five, there is two records for Martian, that is a student ID of 515, and insert also works now. So that is how you promote Read Replica instance into its own master and restore your business in case there is trouble with your production instances. That's it for RDS from my end. One last time, do you have any queries on what has happened so far? As you can see, I'm in the DynamoDB console, and it is very simple using DynamoDB here. All you have to do is click on create table, and here tables are called as collections. So I'm going to say DynamoDB table, and partition key is what shall we use? I had a demo created here. For DynamoDB, I'm going to create a student ID as my partition key now. Student ID again. So that is going to be my partition key. That is which key is going to be my primary key. That is what here I'm giving. So student ID is going to be unique. Each student will have their own ID. So that is what I'm given here. And leave the rest of the things as default. You don't have to change anything here. Go ahead and create it. So voila, that's it. You are created your first DynamoDB table, and there is nothing much to do here. So it's getting created. Meanwhile, I'm going to see if I have for people who are not familiar with how NoSQL works, every record that you are inserting into a NoSQL database is stored as a collection. That collection is usually stored into a JSON format, which is key value format in other words. NoSQL uses non-columnar database. That is the key here. In this case, as the example that I'm showing on my screen, is the key is the student ID and the value is the student details. For example, the student ID of 1 will have a value of, for name, he will have a value of John. For age, he will have a value of 21, those kind of things. I can have any number of stored collections here, and the collections can keep on growing. Amazon will ensure the database growth, the performance, and also how these collections are retrievable as soon as possible. So all those things Amazon takes care. Your responsibility is to insert those records and find out how to retrieve those records, or what is your primary key for your record, and those kind of things. And the easiest way is to create a JSON file. That is what I'm going. This command nothing but creates a student.json file, and this will be inputted there. And for inserting that, I'm going to use this command from my console. So for this, I'm going to use Amazon AWS CLI. Usually what application developers will do is they will have a DynamoDB client built into their application and insert records using the application itself. Since I don't have a DynamoDB application handy, I'm going to use the console to insert a record. As of now, you can see, I'm going back to the console. As of now, you can see when I choose items here, there are no items here in my collections. There's nothing here. So let us go ahead and insert a record and come back and see what happens here. Before